So how do you differentiate? Okay, this I'm going to automate, but I wanted to keep the human touch here.
Well, I think you got the analogy perfect right there because many people go through the same process when they're bringing on board virtual assistants or just new employees, right? You have to let them know what's going on, and that's either hands-on training, or in the case of a virtual assistant, it's hard to do. So you have to, write a document or create a diagram or somehow communicate what their job is and what their workflow is. And I went through the same process, actually. I had a podcast back in 2020, and I brought some um, uh, virtual assistants on board, and they wanted a diagram. And so it's exactly the same thing with AI. The difference is that rather than plugging virtual assistants in, you're plugging automation and or AI tools in. And so the key, first of all, is really to create that map and to create a strategy for introducing it to your organization. You need a strategy, and there's going to be different types of people. There's going to be the early adopters, the mid-range adopters, the laggards, and bringing all of those people on board to change your workflow is actually really difficult. McKinsey, which is a group that performs a lot of business analysis and a lot of polls, actually said that 70% of business transformations fail.
This is the Real Estate Vibe Show, and I'm your host, Vinki Loomba. As a real estate investor and a fund manager, I'm always excited to explore the world of real estate opportunities with you and for you. And today, I have a very good friend, Daniel Holmlund, with me. I hope I didn't butcher your name. Welcome to the show, Daniel.
Thank you very much, Vinki. You know what? I actually went to Sweden, and they told me I said my name wrong also. So I usually say Holmlund. My cousins say Homeland. It's all good.
A little bit about Daniel. Daniel is a seasoned real estate investor and entrepreneur, as well as he's a founder of Alternative Investing Club. We're going to be talking about that today as well. A thriving community that educates investors on diverse passive opportunities like commercial real estate and renewable energy. With experience as a general partner in over 3,308 multifamily units, Daniel also trains businesses on leveraging AI for growth and efficiency, blending technical expertise with investment acumen. So today our topic is AI-powered success, scaling your real estate business with AI. We all know AI is growing exponentially. It's reshaping the world, unlocking possibilities once confined to science fiction, right? You guys agree with me. So it's not just revolutionizing our industries like real estate, healthcare, education, but also enhancing our day-to-day experiences. This is more than just a technological leap. It's a transformation of how we live, work, and envision the future. The way I see is, I always say this, we are already stepped into an infinite world of possibilities. And today, we'll be discussing with Daniel how AI is driving these groundbreaking opportunities, including cutting-edge tools to scale your businesses, streamline operations, and unlock its full potential. So Daniel, you have been in the forefront for both real estate and AI. Can you start by telling us how your journey been and how it led you to blend these two fields?
Sure. So I think a lot of people know, or maybe if you're new, that I was an Intel engineer for 12 years, and I've been in the software development business for 23 now. And the other so at Intel, I was actually working with a lot of internet-based products, and then over the last 6 years, I was working on a tool called OpenVino, which is an AI-based computer vision product. And my job at Intel was actually to take complicated technologies that Intel was creating, and usually the engineers they were not people persons. They were computer persons. They couldn't take the product and turn it into something that the customer could understand and relate to. And so my job was to create demos, create training, to take complicated topics and try to communicate it. So we did a lot of conference speaking, a lot of traveling around, filling up hotel lobbies, not lobbies, conference rooms with like 50 to 100 people and doing a training session. And I really enjoy taking complicated things and trying to boil them down to something that's relatable. And that's the same thing that I do at the Alternative Investing Club. At Intel, I started the Intel Real Estate Education Club, which was an
Right.
employee club. And I've helped start real estate clubs at a number of businesses actually, but this was an employee club, and we met every single Friday, and we just bring a speaker in to come and educate people on whatever their topic of expertise was. And I've been doing that now for 6 years,
Nice.
and we average 49 events per year. This week, this Thanksgiving week, this is one of the few weeks where we don't do a Friday event. But and there's usually one or two in December. But every other week we have an event, and it's open to the public now. It's not just an Intel employee club. So alternativeinvestingclub.com if you want to go find it.
Wow, how fun.
So
That's nice. And that you're growing too outside the company, which is good to know. And on top of that, you're trying to teach people how to implement AI in their day-to-day thing. So I was just thinking out loud here, for some of the listeners who might not or who might be new to AI, can you explain what AI is artificial intelligence, and how it's being applied in your day-to-day life or into your real estate investing journey, wherever you're trying to use it?
yeah, AI is as people know, it's a pretty complicated topic, and there's a lot of different ways to approach it. Um,
Mhm.
but one thing is certain: people are adopting it, and there's an adoption curve that individuals go through as well as organizations. You need to have an AI leader or an AI strategic thinker to help implement it within your business, and that might be the business owner or a manager. But there needs to be coordination of your AI strategy to really implement it inside your business. And for me, since I am a technologist and an investor, in my own personal business, the Alternative Investing Club, what I wanted to do is diagram all my business workflows. And that might be, how do I run a Friday event? How do I perform a lead nurture campaign for an investor? How do I automate my capital raising? How do I, create GPTs that might help me with underwriting? Things like that. And so diagram them out and try to figure out where it can be automated, where AI applies, and also where human touch points apply. Because as you know, this is a person-driven business. And if you lose your own voice, your own brand, then you have lost what attracts people to you in the modern days. I mean, AI should never be used to replace your own personal voice, but it can be used to help you brainstorm, can help you to write outlines, it can help you with creating plans, it can help you with a lot of things that can really amplify your own personal brand and voice.
Nice. I mean, you laid out the foundation very well. And then the way you are explaining, so AI, you just wanted to use it more like as a tool, not losing your voice at the same time. And then I wanted to highlight a couple of things. You said, take your workflow or your day-to-day routine and then just create a diagram. I remember my Bank of America days, when I'm going to go back like early 2000 or something like that. So I got into this group. I was new to this group. They started this new group. They wanted to create all the different processes. So technology was evolving. We were getting new tools and apps and everything. So what we did, we started a new group to help us with all the repetitive tasks in India. And then we send them all the guidelines. Okay, this is it, this is it. And then, what I got back from the manager from India, he said, we don't understand that. We wanted to have the block diagrams. You just tell us the workflow in the diagram. So that was something new for our department because we hadn't done that before. And that's what you're exactly talking about. So when we started using that, I think there was one app too, I'm forgetting the name, I can't remember, where you can create the linear diagrams. And
Hmm.
then you can connect with different workflows too, like you can create the forks and then you can connect and then you can see where the gaps are. And that's what you're exactly talking about, which is so interesting to see. So if you can explain it to us, like if you use the AI as a tool and you have the whole diagram for your workflow, how you wanted to do it, and then you mentioned something very subtly that you wanted to see where the human touch points are. So how do you differentiate? Okay, this I'm going to automate, but I wanted to keep the human touch here.
Well, I think you got the analogy perfect right there because many people go through the same process when they're bringing on board virtual assistants or just new employees, right? You have to let them know what's going on, and that's either hands-on training or in the case of a virtual assistant, it's hard to do. So you have to, write a document or create a diagram or somehow communicate what their job is and what their workflow is. And I went through the same process actually. I had a podcast back in 2020, and I brought some um, uh, virtual assistants on board, and they wanted a diagram. And so it's exactly the same thing with AI. The difference is that rather than plugging virtual assistants in, you're plugging automation and or AI tools in. And so the key, first of all, is really to create that map and to create a strategy for introducing it to your organization. You need a strategy, and there's going to be different types of people. There's going to be the early adopters, the mid-range adopters, the laggards, and bringing all of those people on board to change your workflow is actually really difficult. McKinsey, which is a group that performs a lot of business analysis and a lot of polls, actually said that 70% of business transformations fail. It's hard to change an organization.
That's the truth. People
Um,
don't like to adapt to the change. Yeah,
yeah, even a small organization, it's really hard.
exactly. Mhm.
And so when you can diagram it all out, then it becomes an exercise of, well, which tool do you plug in to do the job? What's the cost of that tool? Some tools are not too expensive, some are really expensive. So you have to, and there's trade-offs between those. And then, of course, the other thing that you want to make sure you do is that you communicate that out to your group and know that we're going to be changing the way we work. And so, I mean, I would love to hear how you do some of your work with artificial intelligence, and I'll be glad to talk about tools or workflows that I use also.
Yeah, no, definitely. But first, I wanted to highlight one thing very important that you said, the communication. You said communicate with
Yes.
your team and the people who are you working with. Because if you're in a corporate world or even your smaller organization who's communication is the number one key. Because when you don't communicate, people have this feeling of insecurity.
Yeah.
Then they're gonna leave you. They're gonna leave you stranded, and then you're gonna starting from the very scratch. I'm talking from my experience, because they wanted to have the sense of security that okay, they're gonna be here, even though you're
Hmm.
bringing a new technology or these new AI tools in-house, they're gonna be expanding with these tools. Their job's not gonna be eliminated. You know what I'm saying? So
Hmm.
when you give them that kind of sense of security, they tend to work alongside you versus going against you.
Yeah, there's a real misperception that AI should, maybe do your work for you, and
Mhm.
that is a path to having your brand look, act, and feel just like everybody else's.
That's so
In
true.
2025, 2024, right now, you have to be your authentic self. You have to put yourself out there. You have to be personable and relate, or people are not going to listen to you. People don't want bullet point, emails that AI generates. Nobody wants that. I don't even read the there are these AI agents that come into Zoom, right? And they summarize the Zoom meeting. That sometimes that's useful, but most of the time I don't even read those.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. That's what I wonder too, because whenever you have a meeting, you have this fireflies coming in or some other tools coming in, joining, taking the notes. So I wonder how many times people read this, because if they're so busy, they do not have time to attend a meeting in person and sending their AI agent, would they have time to go through that notes later on
mhm.
to, I don't know. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, let me relate one story, and
Mhm.
this actually happened at Intel, and
Uh-huh.
and the point of the story is that technology cannot solve every problem. And in fact, many times, if you use it incorrectly, it will make it worse. And
Mhm.
this story at Intel, it actually has nothing to do with Intel products. In the cafeteria, they used to
Mhm.
have a soda stand, and it was,
Mhm.
it was a standard, like you'd see in a fast food where there's different sodas, and you put your glass under there, and you hit the little lever, and maybe there's 8 different options that are there, and 8 people can actually fill their soda at the same time. If they get in there and bustle shoulders with each other. Um, and there was never any line on that machine. Well,
Mhm.
a couple of years ago, Intel actually decided, oh, we're going to replace all of these with this high-tech touchscreen soda dispenser that only has one spigot, right? And so there was a touch screen. There were like 50 soda options. You could hit more syrup, less syrup. You could change the how many bubbles,
That's
the gas that was in it. There were a ton of options, and there was only one spigot on it. And the line went from being nothing to very long and time consuming to go through. And
Mhm.
that to me is an example of, yes, you can bring in really cool technology, but if it's not making your business better, then it needs to go. It needs to not be a part of your workflow. And here I can give you a second example actually that I actually use at the Alternative Investing Club. So we have a number of multifamily properties
Mhm.
that the Alternative Investing Club Fund is a general partner in, and a few that just syndications where I'm a general partner in it. And one of my responsibilities is, of course, updating investors as to what's going on. Well, one workflow that I have that has saved me a lot of time is my property managers. They always send me a weekly summary of what happened that week, how many people moved in, how many people moved out, what are the projects in place, were there any events that they should note, yeah, what were the costs that happened that week, those sorts of things. And now it used to take me a long time to kind of sit down, look at that, and then write up a communication to the investors. Now I can take those and throw them into ChatGPT or Claude. Claude actually gives a little more personable, and
That's
it's not so robotic feeling as ChatGPT. ChatGPT may get better in the future, but it's easy to tell, at least in my opinion, when something is generated by ChatGPT. But you can take those property management summaries and say, hey, AI agent, can you rewrite this in a paragraph style that will communicate to my investors the important points that happened this week? And so you
Mhm.
just take that, drop it in, it'll generate something, a decent-ish starting point. I call it the AI rough draft, right? And then you need to go through and personalize it, right? You need to relate to the investors. You need to maybe edit and change some of the language, but it really helps in terms of giving you a rough draft that you can work with. And now instead of taking an hour or so in order to write that up, I can do it in 15-20 minutes. It's a big time saver, and it gets rid of a lot of the headache of it, of just brainstorming, what do you put in it. And you can do that in report fashion. You can generate reports. You can plug in AI in different areas, but you always need to go through and recognize that it's a rough draft, and you need to add your own personal touch to it.
Yeah, I like that actually. Actually, you can do that in GPT too, ChatGPT. If you train the model, you can train a bot for yourself. You can train whatever way you want it, and whatever language or how you talk, how you speak, guide it. And then I do the same thing too. Sometimes, those long PPMs you need to read. Okay, highlight
Mm-hmm.
everything that I need to know in this PPM. So just make it readable for you. A lot of the legal language sometimes I don't understand. A lot of people maybe don't understand that. It's better to use the tool to help you understand. And then even you can even ask the GPT. I ask them, yeah, I use Claude too, actually. And then you can ask that, at what point did you see that? And and the other thing I noticed that these GPTs, they can make mistakes too. Like the
Oh
other
yeah.
day, I was just going through this underwriting. I'm like, okay, tell me what's going on in this underwriting. What are the assumptions? How this person underwrote this deal and everything. And then I asked him, okay, tell me what line items you are looking and giving me these answers. And that line number was totally wrong, not was aligned. So you
Mm-hmm.
have to be careful.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, ChatGPT is like garbage in, garbage out. So it's just like whatever data you're putting in, that's what you're going to get back. So how strategic you are and how much clarity you have, whatever you're looking for, that's the kind of answer you're going to get. So it's like a really, really powerful tool. So we've been talking about it. We are both are very excited about it. So tell me, how it can streamline your operations and then help you scale your business better. What are you doing in that aspect? Because I know you're doing multiple things to scale much faster.
Mm-hmm. Let me go back really quickly and just highlight that point. You absolutely have to, anything that's going out in communication, you have to double check, because
Exactly.
the AI technologies are just responding to the input that they've been given. They're not actually truth. They generate their outputs based on probabilities, and that doesn't necessarily generate a true statement. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of systems nowadays are using what's called RAG. It's retrieval augmented generation. And RAG systems that's what GPT's O1 preview model uses, a RAG system. And what that does is allows the information to be generated, and then it goes through a series of fact checks on it in order to make sure that it's correct. And we can implement that in our own businesses too. But you always, you are the person sending the communication. You always have to double check it at the end. So what am I doing right now in my business? Well, I have a background of computers and technology, and the Alternative Investing Club. We create pathways for people to get into private placement investments. Right now, I'm actually kind of going through an experimental phase where I'm writing on LinkedIn for the next 100 business days about how I'm changing my business workflow to incorporate more AI. And in particular, we're building out a completely automated capital raising system. And so most of those capital raising is actually a fairly well-defined problem in terms of there are certain touch points with your investors, and you always have to make sure that you are available for a personal meeting on Zoom or at a coffee shop or over the phone. So you can define the touch points with your investors, but a lot of the touch points are like, hey, we need to do a nurture campaign. Hey, we need to send out our webinar link. We need to send out the soft commit link. We need to send out the legal papers. We need to confirm the wire. They're all fairly repeatable and standard operations, and a lot of it can be automated. A lot of people do it in active campaign, right? You can build your little diagrams in active campaign and automate the email sending process. You can do some of that with one of my favorite tools is called N8N. It's a little or make.com or Zapier. You can do a lot of those processes with those as well. N8N, I would probably only recommend for people that are software. It's a little more technical, but it also builds nicer looking diagrams, which is another reason why I like it.
Yeah, the thing is go high level too. I'm not sure if you use that because you can do a lot of automation, and they have a lot of AI tools that's like present there that helps you create all the workflows that you're talking about. If you can talk
Yep.
about that too.
So I'm doing my 100 days of exploration and blogging with a newsletter called Grow Your Business with AI on LinkedIn.
Nice.
And it's just me trying to automate my processes and talking about what worked and what didn't. And so if you're interested in that, go check it out. The on the underwriting side, it's a little trickier. The problem is not quite as well laid out. Underwriting and due diligence, you can create GPTs that will actually, instead of spitting out, so there's GPTs that you interact with. So you'll say, hey, I need to underwrite a property. Here's the broker's presentation or the investment presentation. And then it might be able to converse with you about what's inside it. You can also, so that's good if you have a GPT directly interacting with a person. When you're turning it into an automated process, it's often better to take that data and put it out in some type of structured form, like maybe a table format, or for those who are more technically inclined, a JSON object that you can send to make.com or Zapier or some of these other services that will take that and then run an automation based on it. You can even create GPTs that will pull out information in a broker's presentation and directly put it into tabs on your spreadsheet in your underwriting model. So that's one thing that's pretty common is, can you pull out all the important bits of information from a particular presentation or to create an underwriting model? And obviously it'll pull out some details and some it won't, just based on what's in the presentation itself. So there's always more follow-up that you need to do, but it's a good tool for helping you speed up your process. Basically, you could underwrite, 3x 5x more deals if you start using these automation tools. And of course, knowing that you always have to check your inputs, but you can create what Claude calls artifacts. And artifacts are basically, given a deal, if I pull out the location from that deal, maybe I want to see a report on what are the demographics of that area.
Mhm.
Is it
Mhm.
growing? Is it not? What's the medium home price or not? What's the medium salary or not? How is the job diversification? What's the crime rate like? And so one thing that you can do that's really helpful is you can set up your GPTs so that when you put in a presentation, it'll extract all the location information, go look on the
Mhm.
internet and pull together a report for you that you can see. And then
Mhm.
you can go to city-data.com or betterplaces.net, I think is another one that's really good. It's got a ton of information on different geographic locations. And you can look up and go through the process of researching it yourself, or if you want, you can have a GPT go and create the report for you and give you a one pager. So
Mhm.
there's lots of ways that different people like to arrange their workflows. And
Mhm.
there's definitely ways to speed up people's workflows also using AI.
Okay, so earlier you said, you're trying to optimize capital raising, and that's like one of the, like, I would say, important thing for a lot of people who are in the real estate industry,
Sure.
how to raise capital. Oh, I'm struggling, I'm not struggling. So how do you streamline the processes? You mentioned few things, to automate maybe your email nurturing sequence, to automate your campaigns, or to automate somehow to create your presentations, or that's a presentation, the investor decks that you're sharing the information, or the follow-up emails, you can do that. But when you're doing all this, I just wanted to highlight one thing. Let's not forget about the human touch. Like you were saying, you still have to have a call, you have to have a Zoom call,
Oh,
because
absolutely.
a lot of people, they wanted to have that human touch. Who's going to give you the money? It's very, very important for them to know you, who you are. They just don't want to talk to you about all the time, because I know a lot of people, they're using their bots too. They're creating their avatar, and avatar goes talk to them, answer all the questions whatever they're asking. I don't think there's anything wrong, because that's the world we are stepping in. It's perfectly fine, but I think we are still wired and old fashioned. At least I am, and because I like to talk to my investors, and I make
Oh,
an
absolutely.
I go
Yeah.
extra mile, I make extra effort. So what are your thoughts on that? And how do we streamline that process with all this technology so that, people are kind of able to raise their bar wherever they are?
Well, when you diagram your workflow out, one touch point that's actually SEC required, of course, is your onboarding process.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're onboarding an investor, if you're depending on what type of if you're doing 506B or C or a Reg A or a CF or whatever it is, you need to have a personal interaction and a pre-existing business relationship in many of those cases. And so a lot of times that means actually meeting the person, right? There's no getting around that. You have to meet the person. You have to talk with people directly. And so the SEC requires you when you're onboarding people, of course, to have a conversation. And frankly, you would be foolish not to have a conversation
Mm-hmm.
because, you want to make sure your goals and their goals are aligned. I
Aligned.
usually ask my investors when they come on if it were 3 years in the future and you were looking back, what has to have happened to make you feel like this is successful both personally and financially?
Mm-hmm.
And that question right there is a very human question, because you'll get to hear about, I want to send my kids to university, I want to retire, I want to change jobs, I want to whatever, I want cash flow, I want appreciation. You'll hear, people's goals by asking those sorts of questions. And then oftentimes people, once they get to know you, are open to things like an email drip campaign that might explain. And for just an email drip campaign is just a series of emails maybe come one per day that say, hey, this is the Alternative Investing Club. The first one will say, we're a club for investors to provide education and opportunities for investment. And here are the ways that we do it, might be the second email. And the third email might be, here's how you can vet these different types of deals. And so investor education can happen in a way that's more convenient for them and for you through a lot of automation. And then when you're actually doing a capital raise, I think on every single email, you should always have a link to, your Calendly or your cal.com, something that will let them set up either a phone call or a Zoom call with you. And you can use automations to, make those automatically appear on your calendar or update your HubSpot to say that you had an interaction. There's all sorts of little things you can do. Because a lot of this business too is manual. When I have a speaker at the Alternative Investing Club, I will take the 1 hour, video that we do and go make video shorts that I can share on Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn. By the way, there's a great tool for creating shorts that, I have no affiliation with them, but I just love their products. It's called Opus Pro. You throw a long video in there and it actually will generate 30 short clips for you. And it will, using AI, find the key points, find the videos. It'll give you a transcript and gives you a little editor. So it does all the rough drafts for you. And then you can edit it and post them.
Yeah. It's amazing to see how many AI tools are like that. CapCut is another one.
Yeah, CapCut will do that too.
HeyGen is another one. HeyGen does pretty good job too. There's multiple AI tools out there. It's just like what resonates with you, That's pretty good tool. Thanks for sharing that. And then, we've been talking about this AI tools and everything. One question came to my mind. I wrote down that I wanted to ask you is, let's talk about our passive investors, our LPs, they have full-time jobs, they're working super hard, and they just wanted to kind of, have this passive income going on, but want hands-free kind of thing. So for them, I wanted to ask you a question is like, what are you trying to do or trying to create some kind of portal for them? Or you thought about that, where they can go, they can vet the deal, whatever deal we brought to them or any other syndicator brought to them. It's like they can do their own due diligence to expedite the process for them. Is there something like that you're doing it?
It depends on your level of technical expertise. Oftentimes, you want a landing page that they can go through to see the deal that they get invited to once they submit a soft commit. So that landing page is going to have a series of information. You can use AI to help you create that information quickly, or you can use your previous templates, and fill them in. You can use AI for, when they go through and submit their soft commit. You can put them on email campaigns. You can integrate with DocuSign or EasySign or HelloSign or whatever you happen to use. There's a lot of it is automation more than AI. AI, I think it comes in general when you're brainstorming, what you want your communications to be. So you might brainstorm, you might take your deal and you want to find, 5 things that really emphasize why this is a good deal for your investors. And then, when you brainstorm that with an AI, then you go write it yourself. That way you're maintaining your personal connection to them. So in a lot of ways, AI is more of a brainstorming and rough draft writer. And then you as the person need to take that and put it into your workflow.
Wow. Thanks for all this information. I just love this chat with you. So what advice would you have for someone who's starting to explore this AI tools or new to this, what advice you give them, where to start to accelerate their business?
Well, obviously YouTube, there's a ton of videos there. A lot of them are very technical though. And particularly if you're looking for capital raising, you should find somebody who knows how to do it already. It's a process that has to be SEC compliant. And if you do it wrong, you can get on the wrong side of the law. So you probably want to find a mentor or somebody who's teaching it online. You can find a lot of free resources out there. I usually don't recommend paying for a really expensive person, but that can shortcut your time also. So either free learning or paid learning with a mentor.
And then you also, we were talking earlier before we started the recording, then you also have a fund, right? So how
Yeah.
are you
So
trying to optimize the fund? Are you using any AI technology in that aspect too?
yeah, when we review deals, we will take the information that's sent to us and create those artifacts, like I say, a property
Mhm.
report, a report on the structure of payments, a report on we've got 27 points in our due diligence checklist. So
Nice.
for just to back up to what it is, the Alternative Investing Club, we bring speakers in every single Friday, and most of them are just educational speakers. Back when we were actually a club operating at Intel, they could only be educational speakers because, as an employee club, we could not participate in any sort of commerce.
Mhm.
And so, what we do is we grew our thought leadership platform there, and then that built our network where we can create deals in our own personal companies. So it was more for building a network. The Alternative Investing Club Fund, what it does is we'll bring speakers in, and if they are a pitch, we pre-vet them, so they have to pass our due diligence checklist. And then we say to the group there, okay, this is something that I personally would invest in, the people in the Alternative Investing Club would invest in as people who have a fair amount of investing experience. Now it's up to you guys. If you like this particular person and you like their deal or this particular company, then let them come in and pitch. We'll send out a call for capital at the end of the meeting. Any capital that we raise, we earmarked for the fund to put into that particular investment. And then they come on as repeated guests, to continually put money into that position within the fund. And so the idea is we have semi-institutional and institutional people, that, for instance, DLP Capital was one of our first, and I think a lot of people know DLP Capital. They have a debt fund, and they've been giving regular distributions since 2014.
Mhm.
And so you get 9 to 10% of cash on cash with their debt fund. That immediately met the cash flow needs of our fund. But then the nice thing about it was it also met our liquidity needs, because you can liquidate that position with a 90-day written notice. So when we put money into the fund, you immediately get 9 to 10%, just flowing through from DLP Capital, and then we can liquidate chunks of that in order to put them into longer term, more profitable deals, maybe like an industrial or a multifamily or some other type of investment. We also do business equity investments, and oil and gas investments through the club. Oil and gas is a different ballpark, though, because that, due to the tax structure in oil and gas, we don't do that through the fund. That has to be maintained separately, because with oil and gas deals, you can actually offset your active income.
Mhm.
And if we were to put it through the fund is a passive vehicle, it would convert the active to a passive tax flow, and it would negate the main reason that a lot of people invest in oil and gas. So that's a long way of saying that the fund tends to deal with institutional 100,000, 200,000 or more type minimum investments. And then people in our club can get into these deals. The club fund has a minimum of 25,000, 25K. So it's a way for everyday people to get into institutional quality investments.
Yeah, that's good to know. So your fund is a real estate fund, or is it like a blind pool?
It's not actually a real estate fund. We tend to emphasize real estate more just because that's what we've done a lot before in the past. But we have also partnered with people that are doing business equity. We've looked at deals. We've looked at potentially bringing, and I have not found a good partner in these areas yet, but just as educational speakers coming into the club, we've had people come in and talk about oil and gas, solar credits, renewable energy. There are a lot of creative ways to make passive income out there.
That's so true.
Credit litigation finance is a new one that a lot of people are talking about.
Mhm.
We found a guy who likes to trade art, and he's got a fund to do it. There was another person that came in and spoke at our club that bought and sold barrels of whiskey and expensive bottles of wine. And that's how he ran
Nice.
his fund: buy low, sell high, give a return to people. So there's a lot of interesting ways that you can get into alternative investments. And frankly, our heart in the club is to make it accessible to everyday people, and to have people invest in communities instead of Wall Street. I like
That's
that
good to know.
is in a community and you're not sending it to Wall Street. And I think that strikes a chord with a lot of people.
And you have more control on your funds. So
Yeah.
where do you see this intersection of AI and real estate heading in the next 5 to 10 years? I think it's going to explode. We're going to be in a totally different world.
Oh, yeah. It's going to explode. And frankly, people that don't implement these processes are going to be at a competitive disadvantage with people who can. If you can 5x the number of properties you're underwriting or automate your systems of capital raising so that they're less labor intensive, you have a decisive business advantage. And so like you said earlier, I work with businesses in order to implement those things. My domain for that is growyourbusinesswithai.com. I just enjoy working with people to make their businesses better. So I think it will blow up.
That's good. Oh my God, I can keep on talking unto you. We are way over time. So I'm going to ask you, share one golden nugget with my audience, like you didn't share enough, but one golden nugget could be mindset, could be anything.
I think that I really want to emphasize that no matter what tools you use, this is a person business. And so that golden nugget is always be personal, always be open to a Zoom call. I mean, this might be obvious to a lot of people, but AI should never replace your voice. It should only amplify your authentic voice and your authentic brand.
Oh, I love that. So be authentic. That's the golden nugget for today. And this brings us to our vibe rapid fire round. I'm going to ask you 5 questions. You're going to answer it in 1 word or 1 sentence only. Are you ready?
I saved my little bit of water in my glass for this moment. I'm ready.
All right. So the first question is, what is one of the most important things that you have learned in your life? And how did your life change after learning it?
Work-life balance. If you're a workaholic, you need to take breaks.
I like that. Work-life balance. And our scale is always tipping. Mine is always tipping, no matter what. So share one good book that you like to recommend to my audience.
The Conscious Capitalist. It's a great book. It was written by the founder of Whole Foods, and it talks about how capitalism needs to be a 6-way win. That's what they say.
So in 1 word, what does life mean to you?
Family.
I like that. What is your biggest passion?
Education.
That's a good one. If you could turn back in time and talk to your younger self, like we're talking earlier, way earlier before starting the recording, what would you tell yourself and why?
Oh my, keep working out. It gets harder when you're older. That might be one thing I'd say.
That's a good one. So how can people reach out to you?
Oh, you can find me at alternativeinvestingclub.com. And my email address is daniel@alternativeinvestingclub.com.
Thanks, Daniel. I really enjoyed our conversation today. And as always, thank you for tuning into the Real Estate Wife Show. Do not forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with anyone looking to elevate their real estate investing game. Until next time, stay focused, stay inspired, and keep building your real estate vibe. Thanks again, Daniel.
Thank you.